Let's get it going on the Locked On Royals Padres crossover pod. Today's show is brought to you by Game Time, folks. Game Time. Download the Game Time app to create your account. Use the code LOCKEDONMLB and get $20 off of your first purchase. And get last-minute tickets over there for the lowest prices guaranteed at Game Time. We're going to talk opening day. We're going to talk about the next generation of baseball and how the new rules have impacted how we watch the game in I think, a positive way. What we thought about baseball as a whole over the last few weeks, and my hottest take ever. But Javi, it's back. Baseball's back. We just witnessed a full weekend of baseball, and there's many more to come. What did you think watching baseball this week?
Look, man, first of all, I'm excited to do this podcast as always with you. We had a very funny phone call beforehand where we were plotting and scheming what we would do. And you've got this hot take that I'm quite frankly terrified to hear, for being honest. But I will say I enjoyed the heck out of it. The Padres split a series against the Rockies. They started off 0-2 against one of the 5 most maligned franchises in the league, probably. And now, don't get me wrong, as I spoke with Paul Holden, which you guys can go check out on our crossover for a preview of opening day, they've gotten a little bit better. But even still, look, I enjoyed the heck out of it. It's opening week, so I'm not going to overreact too much. Is it a little frustrating that you come in the Padres with all this anticipation and stuff, and then Kyle Freeland looks like Brian Hayes at third base, winning a platinum glove, and then CJ Cron becomes Barry Bonds, and all of a sudden Juan Soto becomes the new Eric Hosmer for our team? Yeah, of course it is, but it's also so early, so you kind of gotta take it in stride. You know what I mean? And take it almost as the universe is telling a little bit of a joke. And also that the Dodgers media is absolutely out of its mind with hypocrisy, and it's really fun to see that back again. So everything's back. You know what I mean? It's really cool. It's cool to have this staple, this constant and very consistent force back in my life, and that is the game of baseball, my friend.
It's back, and it's great. It's better than ever. I really think that baseball is in a great spot now after these rule changes. I think that these rule changes were incredible, even as it impacts the Royals in a negative way. Franmil Reyes in a big spot had a strike go against him, where it was a 2-strike strikeout for the Royals. But in general, just watching how fast this game moves. I mean, yesterday, the Sunday night baseball game was over in a blink of an eye. It was done before 9 o'clock Central Time. It was crazy to see how quick that game moved. I think that these rule changes are awesome. The stolen bases being up is cool. Like, there's just more action happening in baseball, which more action happening in baseball then kind of eliminates the whole it's boring argument, because now there's action happening at all times. I thought there were some interesting results. I'm interested to see how this goes moving forward, like how quickly some of the relievers and pitchers can get used to the pitch clock, and if it takes an entire season to get used to it, if it takes a few weeks to get used to it, like whatever it takes to kind of figure it out. But Javi, without further ado, my hottest take ever. I think across any platform. I think it's my hottest take about anything in the world. I think I've never had a hotter take in my life than this.
So here's the thing. I will say I'm excited because I may potentially battle you on this. I don't know what it's going to be. I don't know if it's going to be Royals related. I don't know if it's going to be general, but it's I'm so excited right now. I could jump out of my seat. Rylan, you're famous for the Salvador Perez take. To me, the best take that anyone's ever had on this network. For those who don't know, he believes that his framing metrics don't matter because it shows that he's not trying to cheat the system, which shows that he has great character as a player. That is Rylan Stiles' best take ever, and I absolutely love it and fully support it. Sir, let it rip, man. Let it rip. I'm ready. Here we go.
Yeah, Salvador Perez, and all of his integrity, is now the captain of the Royals, so look what that's gotten him. But my hottest take ever, I think, about anything in the world, opening day is overrated. And it, frankly, is not very good. I mean, okay, listen, let me defend myself. So opening day, it's only good because it's our favorite sport that is back now, and we get to watch it. But listen, you go to opening day, and it takes 50 minutes to start the game because we got to bring out all the legends. We got to introduce the entire team. We got to do all the flyovers and everything else. And then you start the game, and then you play the game, and then you can't react to it because if you react to it positively or negatively, people are going to say, well, it's only 1 of 162. And then in 99% of cases, you don't play the next day, which is not baseball at all. Like, baseball is the beauty of it is that it happens every day, and it's comforting, and you can get into that routine of wanting to nestle up every evening and turn on your favorite team and kind of watch it and do work in the background, or scroll on your phone in the background, or just play your full attention to it and eat dinner, whatever the case is. So you can't get into your routine. You can't really react to it, because any reaction that you give to it, people are going to be a wet blanket about it and say, well, it doesn't matter. It's only one game. And so, like, it just sucks the enjoyment out of it, especially whenever there's that off day afterward. And I understand it's because of rainouts, and it'd be a complicated mess to get all those tickets sorted out with the rainouts that could or couldn't happen. But then why are the Rangers taking an off day the next day whenever they play in a dome? Like, that's just stupid. So, like, I think that opening day as a product is overrated because of all those things I just listed. That doesn't mean it's not good. It's just like, if it wasn't the very first game, I think that we'd realize like how much this sucks to have to wait and sit in it. Now, if you win 9-7 on a dramatic comeback fashion, you probably think that it's an incredible thing. But, getting shut out opening day and then just having to sit in that for an entire extra day, it just is not fun. And I think that it would be more fun if we just went ahead and went straight into a series and just played and just risked the chance of a rainout like we do every other game in the entire MLB season. But I just want baseball to be back and my routine to be back. And I feel like, on opening day, it's still not that way. And it's not that way for a couple of weeks until everyone has their home opener and everybody gets to do their pomp and circumstance. And then we're finally back into that rigid groove. Now, I think that this is a very unpopular take. I think that this is going to get me killed in the comments. But what do you think?
I'm intrigued. But here's the thing. Fundamentally, not to sound pretentious, but I am against labeling things as overrated, only because, it's an overrated word, overrated. Too many people use that to, now I'm not, and you didn't, I'm not saying you did, but too many people will be like, hey, that one movie was really awesome, but it's not that awesome. It's like, okay, then what's the discussion here? You know what I mean? Salvador Perez, he's overrated. He's a really great player, but he's not, the god. And it's like you're kind of assuming a lot about how other people view something sometimes, right? But I will say with your take, sounds like sour grapes from a Royals fan. That's what it sounds like to me. Oh, we get out there, we get shut out, and then we're like, oh, we don't play the next day. And blah, blah, blah. Here's what I'll say. Or they're like, oh, we have to introduce everybody to that. Well, unlike your broke-ass franchise, okay? The Padres and many others, one thing to be excited about on opening day is all the introductions. You're only going to get it once. It's going to be one of the few things that's going to be different about games during the season, because Lord knows baseball fans, they can't stand stuff like the ghost runner or zombie runner or whatever you want to call it. Like, God forbid any game is ever different. Field of Dreams game, we got rid of it. I hate that we had one game that looked different a year. You get all of that. You get the hype of the fact that it's back. You get to see these guys playing a game that matters for the first time. And in the case of the non-broke franchise, the non-broke boy franchises, you have some new players to be excited about, and sometimes superstar players. So for the Padres, that's Xander Bogaerts. You get to see, Nelson Cruz, Matt Carpenter. You know what I mean? You get to see these stars, these studs, these freaks of nature out on the field for the first time. That being said, I do like your point. It is an extremely NBA, the entitled players of the NBA. Not really. Everyone needs to stop that narrative. The unentitled players. One game and then everybody's off the next day. It is a little weird. I do kind of agree with you. Now my team didn't have that. We still played the next day, but that is something that's unique to my team that has nothing to do with us being broke, right? Like we're sick, but that's just the league and schedule powers that be. I do admit there is something weird about every team plays. We've been waiting all season, and then no one does the next day. The reason I compare it to the NBA is I've been for years complaining about how the NBA playoffs, it's like last game of the regular season, they get 3 days off. First playoff game, it'll be like the 8 versus 1 seed. It'll be on a Monday, and then game 2's on a Friday. And I'm like, whoa, what's going on here? It's like, why are we waiting a whole week for that? But I do emphasize with that part. But a lot of the first stuff sounds like broke boy talk, if you don't mind me saying.
No, listen. Okay, so I think that the thing I most have a problem with is just the day off, and then it sours me on everything else, because the Royals opening day, like, they got shut out, but it was still fun to watch Greinke go out there and pitch the way that he did. Yeah. It was still fun to see the bullpen only give up, well, technically give up no runs, but one came on Amir Garrett's watch, and Chapman was throwing 103.
Mhm.
So like the opening day was so fun. And the Royals, despite getting shut out, like they had opportunities to score. They just could not get some situational hitting with a very young lineup. So like it wasn't necessarily the game, and it wasn't even necessarily like the introductions. Like I think that some teams do it incredibly well, like the Reds and the Cardinals actually do
Mhm.
it well. Although we can't praise the Cardinals in this podcast, but the Cardinals do it well historically. But when your team only has a certain amount of guys that are like worth recognizing from their past eras, and sadly, the further and further you get from those eras, the less and less there are people around from those eras. It just kind of becomes a blah, and then just the non playing the next day really sucks because it just doesn't not let you gear up to get into your new routine of like, okay, I got to check for a Royals game every night at 6 o'clock. Like now we're just now kind of getting into that groove here on the next week after opening day. But overall, you're right. It's still great. It's just I really just have a problem with the next day thing. Now in certain cities, I get preparing for it. But like I said, the Rangers and Phillies played. That was a great series. Why didn't they just play 4 times? Because all the games were fun, and they didn't play Friday because of weather. But they play in Arlington with a roof. They didn't need to worry about weather. Like, why did they need a day off? So it just didn't make any sense to me at all. And I do admire the teams that do play back-to-back days, and then they run the risk of just needing to figure it out if anything disastrous happens that they need to reschedule a game for. But in general, opening day is so fun. Uh, it's just not like to me the fun of baseball is the monotony of it in a way. But we'll talk about more about opening day in baseball coming up. But first, I want to say right now, my good friends over at Game Time, Javi, did you know that Game Time is an incredible app that you need to get onto your phone, and you can go go to Game Time right now because buying tickets is incredibly important if you want to enjoy the monotony of baseball as we're talking about. I love being able to go to the ballpark. Like during this homestand in Kansas City, you can go to the ballpark every freaking day this week, and that's so awesome to be able to just walk into the K and be around the people and kind of go to a social event with sports. As you mentioned, NBA, the playoffs are heating up in the NBA. They're going to start next week. So get some playoff tickets if you're around an NBA team that's going to the playoffs, or capitalize on the last few chances you have to go to a regular season game this week if you are in a team that is not going to go to the postseason. So check it out today. Plus, they have concert tickets as well, comedy tickets for comedy shows. Those are always fun whenever they come to your city. So check it out today. They have flash deals. They have last minute tickets, and they're going to be the lowest prices that you can find. So download the Game Time app and create your account. Use the code LOCKDOWNMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms and conditions apply. Again, create your account and redeem the code LOCKDOWNMLB for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. Javi, we're back on the Locked On Royals Padres crossover. And I want to tell you right now to go check out Locked On Fantasy Baseball to help you win your fantasy leagues. It's going to be very important for you to do all season long. Javi, opening day happened. We discussed it, and you've backed me off of my hot take. I'm back on board with opening day. Opening weekend has happened.
Mm-hmm.
The new rules have been implemented, and I think that this is the weekend where people watch the most baseball. And I don't mean in general. I just mean like you watch the most baseball. It's not your team because like you probably everyone that's listening to this podcast and taking the time to listen to a baseball podcast right now probably watched the Astros White Sox ESPN game, probably watched the Sunday Night Baseball game, probably watched one of those Fox games from Saturday. And so with that being said, you've not only then watched your regional team, which is what happens I think the majority of the years that you only watch your regional team, but then you've also ventured out and watched even more baseball. And so, with that being said, and having all the experience that we have now of watching baseball this weekend, what did you think about the new rules? So, were they intrusive to you? Was it fun to you? Did you even notice them? Like, what did you think?
I will say with it is worth mentioning, Jeff Passett tweeted out, depending on when people are hearing this a couple days or a day ago, the average time of the game so far as compared to last year was about 3 hours and 9 minutes. This time it's 2 hours and 38 minutes. Honestly, I thought it was gonna make me I'm pro like all the rules for sure. I've been saying this on my pod. We've both been saying this for so long, but I thought I was gonna be like, like a little anxious watching games where I was like, this it just feels a little bit weird when all of a sudden a sport that has never had a timer has a timer, right? Like, and that, again, I'm not criticizing the rules, but it's more like I was just like, wow, it felt seamless. It really did. It felt super seamless. I like the stolen base stuff. I know that the Padres are not a part of that. just to throw out the stolen base stats, in 2022, for the first 4 days of the MLB season, it was a 67.4% success rate, 29 of 43 stolen bases. In 2023, it's 70 of 84, which is not just a whole bunch of more stolen bases, obviously, but an 83.3% success rate. So for me, what I loved about it is like the more stolen bases, that's not making the games longer. Not at all, because we're getting rid of all that dumb stuff. You know what I mean? Like there was the Red Sox game, right? Like Corey Kluber had thrown like 38 pitches, and it was like, and it was only like 10 minutes, right? Can you imagine that? I remember back in the day, that feels like it's going to take a 4.5 hour game, and I just think that on average, this is going to help so much more in the dog days of summer. And I really enjoyed it. And it really wasn't that crazy. I think that people have been really overrating um the watching it in the moment experience of, oh my God, this is weird. I feel like I remember listening on Pardon the Interruption, a guest that was on was like, I feel like, I go take a sip of water and I look up and then I missed a pitch. I'm like, well, sounds like a you problem, first of all. You know what I mean? Like, what? How long does it take you to take a sip of water? Jeez, come on, my dude. I mean, get some hand-eye coordination and multitasking skills there. So I didn't really notice it too much. I like that they've kind of shortened the challenge stuff. I like that. Just overall, it's just a nice, solid little addition. I really think that this is a big deal, and especially for someone who's covering a team on the West Coast and I'm on the East Coast, a little bit helpful to know that my game probably isn't going to go to 1:30 every night. You know what I mean? So that's really helpful for me. It's just selfishly, but I enjoyed it, man. I thought it was great. While my team doesn't have a lot of stolen bases, and I am questioning whether or not they will, I actually think that they're going to be one of the least running teams in baseball, which I'm wondering. I'm really curious to see the stolen base aspect. Are we going to see that become, because before it was like, all right, speed matters, but it matters more in a base running thing, right? Like stolen bases matter, but it's in like a macro, really diving into the numbers type of thing. Now it's going to be a little bit more obvious where you're like, hey, it's really cool that we have these guys that get on base, and it's likely that you just need a single to bring all of them home. I think that's really cool. Have more 30-30 candidates, have more 40 steal candidates. I think that's better for the game because stolen bases are rad. I love watching them. It's always exciting seeing, whether or not they're going to be safe and whatnot. The little hand gesture of like, hey, can I call timeout? Are we good? I always love seeing that. It's just a pleasure, man. I've really enjoyed what I've seen so far in terms of the rule changes. In terms of the actual baseball being played, I have some mild critiques of certain teams, perhaps some certain whack teams out there, dare I say. But been a lot of fun. What about you?
It's been awesome to me. Look, and I don't do this to take a victory lap. I just do it to point out like why me personally I'm not even noticing it is because we're not seeing the pitch clock. Like I told you in spring training, whenever me and you were discussing this, it's because we can see it. We can see it, and then it makes us nervous. And some of those spring training sites had a pitch clock that was frankly obnoxious. Like it looked like it was photoshopped. It was that big. It was like that in your face on the backstop. It took up the entire backstop, and it was just stupid. And now, at least in the Royals, in the Royal Stadium and the stadiums that I've seen, like you can't even see it on the television. Like you can't see it whenever you're just watching a pitch happen. And so that just leaves like that anxiety nature of it out of it. And at least on the regional networks that we watch Bally's, that's for the Padres and the Royals.
Mm-hmm.
I loved the way that they incorporated it into the score bug. There's like a million ways they could have botched it, and typically with Bally's they do botch it, but this time they didn't. It's great to see them kind of morph out the bases and then put it in the middle of it. I think that was a really good addition by them to make it again less intrusive to where you don't even hardly recognize it, but you're able to still keep up with the game and like, oh, okay, they need to pitch pretty soon here, and the strategy of like why they might be calling something.
Hey, we have it in football, right? With the
exactly.
you know what I mean? Like, and we're now granted, some people will say, oh, well, with football, well, we're used to it. That's why we're used to it in those sports. Yes, the beginning games, you might be like, oh, what the hell, man? This is so weird. Like there's just a pitch every 5 seconds. I'm freaking out. But for the most part, and wow, my hair is wild right now. I need a haircut. That for the most part, I just think it's just cool. It's also cool to see that the sport has taken a step forward, like a meaningful one, and adapting for the first time in a while. I mean, you mentioned we were talking about NFL and NBA, like that wasn't always the case. Shot clock for the NBA used to be a lot longer, and they did things to improve it. And I think that's good. The NBA said, hey, you know what? When you go to the basket, let's not make it that it becomes WWE all of a sudden. And I think that that's for the benefit of the league. Some people will debate that, of course. I would debate that that's not basketball when you tackle someone at the rim. That's called football. Go play football. But, I think that this is really, it's just so cool, dude. Like, this is a sport. And I talked about this in my article for Just Baseball. Everyone could see. I think it's going to be 3 weeks before everybody you'll never hear about complaints ever again. And I've talked about it's like people complain about challenges when they were only on home runs. People complain about the home run derby changing the rules. Everyone loved it. Everyone eventually turns around, and that's kind of what I think is a good lesson for life too. Just approach a change. And by the way, if it stinks, then we'll undo it. You know what I mean? It's not like you're unleashing a nuclear bomb on the world. That it's like, oh, no take backs. It's like playground rule. No take backsies. It's like, no, that's not how this works. And I think it's really exciting and fun. It's been a blast for the league.
Yeah, you're totally right. I think it's been awesome for the league. Now, I do think also, just as a note, that I think that the games themselves have been wildly entertaining. They've been a lot of fun to watch, and so that's helped as well. The performances that we've seen this week have been awesome. Like watching guys punch out 10 batters has been really cool. I mean, Garrett Cole and many people have done it. And the stolen bases, I think, cannot be understated. Like the stolen bases are important. Being able to beat the shift is important. Which there's still funky ways to do it, and the Royals have done it as well. The Royals, on opening day, had Inger Melendez in a perfect spot in a bit of a shift, and he botched the ground ball. But still, I mean, that was basically a shift to get out Gallo. They just that your guy couldn't feel the ground ball. So the shift's still going to happen. The shift's still going to be there, but limiting it the best you can is important. And they also had one taken away whenever Vinny Pasquantino just roped one up the middle, and there's a guy behind second. It's technically allowed, but it's kind of a shift-y type of move. But overall, I think that's important where it's not just home run or bust. And at least, and maybe that's just me wishing it to be so, but it truly does feel like it's less home run or bust this year than in years past. And I think that is very encouraging. I think that is very, very happy to see for all things considered there with the way the game is shaping. But like what has been your favorite game to watch so far? Non-Padres, non-Royals.
Non-Padres, non-Royals. That's a great question. My favorite one to talk about for a little bit was Angels A's, the first one, just because it was hilarious that the tungsten arm O'Doyle meme came into effect on opening day. You know what I mean? Like we're all talking about how we're wondering about where Otani's going to go, and it happens day one, which is just hilarious. I do remember. Let me see here. There was a couple good Yankees ones. I actually called the Saturday game. Padres hadn't been playing yet. It was bases loaded with one out. Giancarlo Stanton. Everyone, feel free. I'll get my mom on tape if I have to. I said, hey, don't worry about it. This is a double play coming up here. You can get back tomorrow. The Yankees
are going to Oz Redux.
And then Stanton, yeah, exactly. Yeah, I know. It takes one to know one. I could smell when the Hosmer ground ball is coming in, and that happened. But for the most part, Angels, A's, then they kicked their butts again. You had that weird Anthony Rendon thing that happened, which was very weird, for sure. But I would also say White Sox Astros was phenomenal. Just a lot of really good personality, a lot of good action, some diving plays from Luis Robert. Absolutely love to see that. I mean, you absolutely love to see that. And also just the Red Sox palooza against the Baltimore Orioles. No pitching or defense whatsoever involved in that series. And every now and then you need some good garbage. You know what I mean? And I don't think the Red Sox are going to be very good, especially because I think their division is going to be very weak, as we talked about on our kind of giant season. Or not very weak, I'm sorry. I think that their division is very strong, which is going to hurt them a lot. I don't think they're better than Tampa, Toronto, or New York. So I think that'll be a big thing. But like the dropped ball, and then it leads to a game-winning home run. Just really, really excellent stuff. What about you?
Yeah, so my very best game from the weekend, it was the White Sox Astros opening day. Like that was a special baseball game. That was really, really cool to watch that one. I did like that game. It's like my number one favorite game of the weekend for me personally. I also like just watching every team, which is kind of a cop-out answer, but I liked watching the performances like Garrett Cole opening day. I know that the game sucked. It was like 5-0. Like Garrett Cole on opening day.
Garrett Cole's not a very fun player to root for. You know what I mean? Yeah. He's so easy to make. And I'm one of those people. I love watching him pitch because I just want to be there on Twitter when he's bad. Now, he is very good. I do think that there are some people who have misconflated my fun and other people's fun and when he's bad, and how you see those memes of him looking pudgy or whatever and whatnot, because he's been associated with the Spire Attack more than anybody else. He's been associated with playoff blowups pretty unfairly more than anybody else. He basically just had that one wild card game. And he's always there, right? He's always available. Very good pitcher, probably a top 5 or 6 guy, like guaranteed this year. But it is really funny when he does bad. You have I don't know if I ever sent you, and people have to look this up if you can. There's someone made a video montage of center fielder for the Yankees. I forgot who made a mistake, and the ball dropped in, and then they show Garrett Cole's reaction. He's like, "Yo, I got you. Like, I got you. Don't worry about it. I got you." And the next pitch is a home run to right field. There's just something funny about him. But yeah, he was great. And in terms of ace pitchers, you had some out there. Dylan Cease was excellent, right? I really enjoyed the overreaction emporium. That's what I'm going to call it. Everybody, you've been admitted. Here's your ticket. Welcome to the overreaction emporium of Aaron Nola and Jacob deGrom getting kind of killed. I just deeply enjoyed it from 2 fan bases, one of which the Rangers, their host of the Locked On Network, is one of the biggest divas at the network, Mr. Bryce Patrick. I know he was losing his mind. And in Philadelphia, isn't even divas, but just crazy people. You know what I mean? So you know that they were going to overreact to that stuff. I just love those 2 fan bases and all that craziness on opening day. Just good stuff overall. And I think it's really fun to keep up on some of the stuff going on around baseball.
I will say, too, that you're right. It is absolutely awesome, the Rangers-Phillies series. Like, that opening day comeback by the Rangers was pretty fun. And that's not disputed. Like, that, you can't dispute that. Like, it was objectively really fun, no matter if you're a Phillies fan or not. So that's another one that I think deserves a lot of credit in these best games of the weekend. But Javi, coming up, we'll talk about the opening weekend in a more interesting way also, that I think whenever we discuss it, by looking back at our preseason power rankings and try to overreact. Is there anything after a weekend that you'd love to change about our preseason power rankings? We'll talk about that coming up. But first, Javi, I want to tell you right now, better good friends over at the Ultimate Baseball GM, folks. Ultimate Baseball GM. It's awesome. It is where you want to be. It's a great game. It's a fun game. It's a game that you're going to get addicted to, and we've all gotten addicted to it. You're on the Locked On Podcast Network. We're all playing it. We're all having a good time. We're competing to see who can win the most championships, which is a lot of fun to get into. And some of our hosts have been fired. Some of our hosts are not very good. Some of our hosts are like Dayton Moore. But nonetheless, go check it out today. It's the ultimatebaseballgm.com. You get 100% boost when you use the code Locked On. Make sure you check it out today. That's probaseballgm.com or the Ultimate Baseball GM. Just check it out today. Start your dynasty today on the App Store or the website. And Javi, how's your team doing so far?
I'm looking at it as we speak. I was just checking real quick. Not bad. We're hanging in there. I haven't got fired yet, unlike the other chumps on this network who apparently have been fired like 4 times. Like, what's wrong? What is going? What is this? The Jason Kidd syndrome? You're just gonna get fired and keep getting hired? What's go? Or the who was that Pelicans coach that I love? Alvin Gentry. You know what I mean? Just it'll work over here though. You know what I mean? That's not me. So all the broke boys over at Locked On that are just getting killed right now. I'm laughing at you. Get better. I love it when people stink at video games. And they're like, "Oh, I can't. It's just too much for me." I'm like, "I'm not a nerd. You're just broke. You're weak-willed. Get better." I'm not saying you got to be a pro. Come on, what are we doing here? Figure it out. Unbelievable. That was mean, but it's what I do.
Check it out today, Ultimate Pro GM. Javi, you haven't gotten fired yet, but you're about to get fired.
Yeah, probably, right? Right now that I've said that, everyone's going to be like, "Hey, did you get fired? Did you get fired?" In my YouTube comments. That should be great.
We're back on the Locked On Royals Padres crossover podcast. Javi, man, what a weekend it's been, huh? Great weekend of baseball. Now let's put on the screen right now our power rankings. MLB power rankings before opening day. This was done by all of our hosts collectively. Then we averaged them out and then made a ranking. That's how rankings go. If you didn't know, number 1. Atlanta Braves. Number 2, Padres. Number 3, Astros. Number 4, Mets. Number 5, Dodgers. Number 6, Yankees. Number 7, Phillies. Number 8, Blue Jays. Number 9, Mariners. Number 10, Guardians. That's our top 10. The Royals are 24th in this ranking. Javi, is there anything about the rankings on the screen now that you would change? Now looking back, having a weekend's worth of data.
People can go back, and this is not even me entering the overreaction emporium. I thought the Padres were too high. I thought I would have put them behind Houston, behind the Mets, around the Dodgers area. I actually think that we might have agreed that Yankees were a little bit higher. I just thought, those teams have a little bit more depth, right? And then I think we shouldn't use only playoff success to decide or to get even more hyped about a team. Don't get me wrong, the Padres added Bogarts, they're getting Tatis back, but those are things worth pointing up. And I wouldn't change that over the Rocky series, but it's at least support a little bit more. People got to see some of my fears, and some of my fears being the positional changes, right? So many guys playing different positions for the Padres, whether or not that impacts them defensively. So far, it has a bit. So we'll see how that pans out. And I think that out of the top 10, though, I'm pretty content with what we have here. I think that the Dodgers do deserve some respect ranking. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of it is based on just the fact that they're the Dodgers and that people are like, hey, they'll figure it out. Syndergaard didn't look too bad. This Miguel Vargas is like, might just break the rookie walk record, which is good. It does not be all and end all. You do need to hit a little bit, but it's a really exciting trend for them. And then in terms of the rest of the teams, Red Sox, I don't care. Although I will say their offense can be fun for sure. But I think the rotation is going to kill them. And I think that you kind of saw that with the Orioles as well, right? But my last one that I want to mention real quick is the White Sox. And I'm not going to do the whole turnaround thing. My opinion on the White Sox was they were the hardest team for me to evaluate heading into the season. We both talked about this a little bit. I just have no idea what to think of them. And a big part of that is literally everything that could go wrong for the White Sox went wrong last year. And sometimes I like to bet on teams like that, especially when the roster is the same. It's not like they lost Luis Robert. It's not like they lost Eloy Jimenez or Tim Anderson or Yohan Moncada or Dylan Cease. All the guys are still there, and they added Benintendi. So it's not impossible that the White Sox are a little bit better than some of these other teams. I can't figure out where to rank them because everything went wrong, but it went wrong for a reason. So I don't know. That's just me, though. I don't want to take up all the screen time here, even though I am a bit of a diva myself when it comes to our crossovers. What do you think, sir?
Yeah, look, I don't want to overreact anything, but if you listen to our preseason show last week, you know that I was already high on the White Sox, and I think that the White Sox proved it this weekend that I would put them over the Brewers, Angels, Twins comfortably. Not over the Twins comfortably, but like over the Angels and Brewers. Like, they should be a top 14 team in this league. And honestly, Rangers proved a lot to me too, where like I would put them over the Angels and the Brewers as well, which I also mentioned last week. So it's kind of a confirmation bias for me. I also, for the Royals perspective, the Royals are 24. They're ahead of the Pirates, Reds, Rockies, Tigers, Athletics, and Nationals. And despite the Royals being winless right now, I still think that that's the correct order. Like, I think that the Royals are better than those teams. I think that the lineup is going to start hitting. Hitters are usually behind pitchers, and if the bullpen is once again just a master class by the front office to figure out a way to make a good bullpen, which it looks like they've done it again early on in the season. And then you can get good Greinke, and then we'll see Brady Singer pitch tonight, and we'll see maybe some of these young guys develop. Like, the Royals are going to be better than those teams in the long run of the season. I think that the Marlins are a good, interesting team. The Cubs, Red Sox. I think that the Royals are all in that kind of top 20 range. Like, they can be. So, like, on our rankings, number 19 through 24, the Royals are at is the Giants, D-backs, Red Sox, Cubs, Marlins, and then the Royals. I think that the Royals can have a shot to overcome those teams, even as they got swept in the opening weekend. They looked a lot better than what the records said that they were going to be in the opening weekend. But like, that's kind of the big takeaways from me. I'm not ready to change too much. I think that the Cardinals are a top 10 team, like I said last week. I think that the interesting part of all of this is the Phillies. Like, how much do you want to overreact to them getting swept? Or is it just a blip on the radar? I think that you could do some damage there with taking them in or out of the top 10. But ultimately, it's a fun week, and I cannot wait to continue to do our power rankings.
I agree, man. I think that this will be a fun thing to go back to as the season goes on, because there's going to be something in here, right? This is how it works. I talked to you, I told you Cubs were my random like surprise team. Whether or not that'll happen, I don't know. I didn't see anything much of them. I didn't really watch anything of the Cubs, to be perfectly honest with you. But something's going to be crazy different, right? Boston will be 21 right now, and they could be 13 later, right? Like, it's totally possible. Or Padres could be 2 right now, and they'll be 11. It's anything can kind of happen for the most part. And I think it's just so fun because a lot of people, they do try and hide, Rylan. You and I know them. We know the cowards over at Locked On. We know the cowards in sports media, right? They put out their little bold predictions that aren't even that bold, to be quite honest with you. They're like, hey, I think Paul Goldschmidt, I think he's gonna win the MVP. It's like, all right, cool. Like, that's not that bold. But in this case, I think we should do some exposing, Rylan. I really do. I think we should, throughout the season, we should follow them. We should hunt them down like we're Skynet and Terminator, hunting down the human beings, acquiring them, and just saying, hey, remember when you said this? It didn't come true. And you're a buffoon for thinking so. The only people that have been ever right about anything are us two, as far as I'm concerned. So that's my take on the power rankings.
I totally agree with that take. That's a great take that you've had. Javi, thanks for joining us again. We'll do it next week. Until then, be good and be good to one another.